the next item on our agenda, which is Dan Bryant giving us an update on the Peace Village proposal and the need or the ask from Square One for a letter from Saco, if we can come to the conclusion that we as a group are going to write it in support of their seeking a grant to help fund that project.
Great, Kate. So thank you very much. I'm Dan Bryant with Square One Villages, and this is a perfect follow-up to the discussion because really I have come to, for those who don't know, I was a pastor in Eugene for 29 years at First Christian Church downtown. And for me, housing is a justice issue. I like to speak of housing justice because not only for people of color, but for low-income people, disadvantaged people of all kinds. If you don't have housing, decent housing, everything else in life is stacked against you. So Square One Villages began as just doing transitional shelter with Opportunity Village, and we morphed into an affordable housing agency because we came quickly to realize there was not enough affordable housing, especially for small households, single individuals, couples, and the like. And developed our first project, Emerald Village Eugene, 22 tiny homes, and then Cottage Village and Cottage Grove with 13 tiny homes. Just came back from there this afternoon. And so we're proposing our next project at Peace Presbyterian Church, and been working with that congregation now for over a year to develop their property. And those who have driven by there may have seen that we have Conestogas there just temporarily to provide transitional shelter for people in need. But our long-term plan is to build a beautiful village of slightly larger homes than we built at Emerald Village. Those who may have seen that, these will include some 2-bedroom and possibly even 3-bedroom homes, so to reach out to families. And the beautiful thing about our project is it's not traditional rental housing. Instead, folks are organized into a co-op. The co-op has at least a part ownership into the project, and the residents own and operate the co-op. They are their own landlords, so to speak. And so empowering those residents to have more say over their housing and control over their destiny, and increasing their financial stability in the process by giving them an equity stake in the project. So Peace Village that we're proposing originally was going to be 36 tiny homes. As things developed, because the city the plan was to partition the vacant lot from the church. The city wanted the church to guarantee that they would pay for a street to connect Ava Street to Quiet Street. And that was going to cost the church $80,000, which would eat up nearly a fourth of the proceeds from the sale. And they're really counting on that income for support of the church. And so they have proposed that we instead buy the entire property in exchange for a reduced price that we will enable them to continued use, guaranteed use of the sanctuary and a room for fellowship and Bible study and the like for probably 25 years for $1 a year kind of thing. And that saves us from having to partition the property. It also saves us from having to build a road on the, south side of the property so that we can put in more housing. And we think that potentially we might be able to do as many as 60 homes on that property. And these are homes that will enable people who are at 60% of area median income to live there affordably. So probably in the price rent of $500 a month to $600, somewhere in that range, so that someone who has a very modest income will be able to afford that. So there's a wonderful opportunity that's coming up from the new Affordable Housing Trust Fund that was created through a new tax, the construction excise tax. And this is the first round of that trust fund. And so we are planning to apply for $150,000 We've already raised well over $100,000 for the purchase of that property. We're working on several other grant possibilities. And once we have purchased it, we'll work on the construction funding. We're very hopeful that by fall of next year, we will have completed that and can start the construction phase. We're reaching out to the neighborhood association. If you, oh, by the way, I'm going to put on the chat the website where you can read all about Peace Village and what our proposal is, although that's with the original proposal on just the 36 homes on the vacant portion. So just know that that's been expanded, but the concepts are still the same. And one of the things that I'm excited about is the church facility, which is in excellent shape, will enable us to potentially start a child care for families that live in the village so that we can have child care built into it. Maybe we use one of the rooms for, whatever interests of the co-op members for an arts center or exercise rooms or, exercise equipment or other things, because in a tiny home, you're not going to have room for exercise equipment. So maybe that's something that's done in the church building. And then the sanctuary provides just a beautiful, wonderful space for community meetings of the village where they can have their regular meetings. So in applying for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, the application is due March 23rd. We're just reaching out to you for anyone who would support this concept and even the organization itself, and this whole notion of tenant-owned housing to enable them to better secure their financial future and to achieve some form of housing justice. So that's just a brief overview, and I'd be glad to answer any questions about it.
Two things to start with. Pat Walsh, I saw your hand up, but before we get there, Dan, do you want to give us an address where people would direct their letter if they want to write individually? And then we can also discuss whether or not the Santa Clara Community Organization itself would like to write a letter.
I will. Yeah, I'll put that in the chat right now.
Okay. And then we're on to you, Pat Walsh.
Pat Walsh does not have a question.
Ah, okay.
I don't know. I must have hit the
point, Pat.
I had a feeling you might be, Dan. No, I have no question.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
So I guess then I would pose the question whether this is oh, John, your hand's up. Go ahead.
If there's anybody's empire building that I could support, it would be Reverend Dan Bryant. So I am delighted to hear about that project getting even more exciting than it was before. And I urge the Santa Clara Community Organization to, as a body, support it. I don't know if it's appropriate to move that we vote to support, to write a letter, or what the process would be. But I personally, however we go about it, or whether we need to have a Zoom meeting afterwards, I would love to see SACO write a letter of support for this project.
You done?
Okay, so next up is Michael and then Kamau.
Yeah, this project sounds amazing. It's real exciting and wonderful. I would just like to ask Mr. Bryant, like more specifically, what kind of support he wants. Would he like individuals of us, homeowners in the area or residents in the area, to write letters, and or more importantly, the organization as a whole, or either or both? And if individual letters would be welcome and helpful, maybe even some suggested text, or, just what are the, I assume, Mr. Bryant, what would be most helpful for whoever. I'm not even sure really who we're addressing, but what they would, what would be most helpful for them to hear.
Yeah, sure. Individual letters, absolutely, particularly that comes from that area, from the Santa Clara area. So from this group, yeah, would be very welcome. And as well as from the neighborhood association. Kate, I'd be glad to work up some sample language I can send to you, and then folks can circulate by email. Councillor Surratt could answer any questions about the Housing Trust Fund and how that works. I think she's probably better versed on it than I am. And we actually have an appointment to talk more in depth about this program, so I'm glad she's here tonight.
Claire, would you like to give us a little bit on that? And then our queue is Kamau, Harry, Patrick.
Yeah, so I appreciate that, Dan, but your confidence maybe is a little overshooting the mark. The council did create the Affordable Housing Trust Fund from a new tax, as Dan mentioned. In terms of the administration of the particulars, I think much of that will be done by staff, but done according to policies that council has set up. So I don't know that council will be asked to review individual applications, but certainly I think the nature of this project, and I think, as Dawn's great framing of it pointed to, Square One Village's track record is excellent, and the project fits within what we're looking for in terms of increasing affordability and finding that gap in housing that we have in terms of affordability, that this would probably really hit the mark. So I think what the city would be looking for was that a neighborhood association such as yours thinks this is a worthy project, would support it, is just lending your voice of support to it. It goes a long way in terms of the city's consideration of an application like this.
Thanks. Okay, Kamau.
I was just wondering when you would start construction if you were awarded the grant.
In the fall of 22. The affordable housing grant is just to purchase the property. So then we've got somewhere between $4 to $6 million that we have to identify funding for in order to build. We'll go to Oregon Housing and Services Commission. We also, for that, they're the primary funder of affordable housing. Some of the money comes from HUD, some comes from the state. We also have a bill in the legislature for $5 million, which will be split between an urban county and a rural county, two projects, pilot projects, to demonstrate the effectiveness of this concept that we call the village model, which is a combination of a community land trust that owns the property, in this case it's our nonprofit, and then a limited equity co-op that owns the housing that's built on it. And it's that combination that enables you to greatly reduce the cost of the housing. And so we want to demonstrate this concept and using Peace Village to do that. And the deal with the legislature who's proposing this is he wants a similar project in Roseburg. So that's why the combination of the two. So if we get that $5 million through the state legislature, that will be a huge chunk of the money we'll need to raise for it. And some of it we'll be able to do just through a more traditional mortgage debt on the property that's paid back from the rents. But so at any rate, there's just a lot to be determined before we can say for sure when it will start. But if we can get that bill through in this session, go to Oregon Housing and get additional funding, it certainly would be doable by the fall of 22.
Harry Sanger, then Patrick Kerr.
Hey, Dan. So if I'm hearing you correctly, one of the challenges with the middle housing and ownership is the general requirement to condominiumize the properties. So it sounds like this co-op model would be a way to provide the residents equity without having to do that.
Absolutely correct. Yep. Yeah. So co-ops, there's a great history in co-ops. They're just not well known and done here yet in the state of Oregon. The closest model for it is CASA of Oregon, that does it for mobile home parks and repurposes, gets the residents in older mobile home parks to buy out the owner and form a co-op in their mobile home park. And so our problem is when we go to Oregon Housing and Services Commission, all of their funding is either for rental or for home ownership. And we're really neither. We're a hybrid between the two. We like to talk of it of tenant owned, kind of project. So that's why we're trying to create this new model to demonstrate its effectiveness. But co-ops, housing co-ops have been done in the East Coast for decades. There's a wonderful one in Lopez Island in the San Juan Islands in Washington that's been doing this now for about 20, 25 years. A little bit different model than ours, but very similar. It's just not well known here yet, but I think has great potential for lowering the cost significantly to create that kind of affordable housing.
Patrick, and then I'm putting myself in the queue.
Yes, Dan, when you put together some type of language, boilerplate language for us, could you also include, just to make sure we have the most updated map in that area that you're referring to?
Sure. You mean, showing the
You mean the land use plan?
Yeah, Ava Street and Quiet Street, the other streets I referred to, you mean? Yeah.
Yes, to make sure that we get that good understanding.
Sure. I might, because we're having to redesign this due to the change in the plan, we don't have a firm layout yet for how we're going to develop it, though we have some pretty good ideas. But I don't know if I'll have that to share yet, but certainly I can just show, the property.
That'd be great, even if it's just Google where you kind of hand draw
sure.
on it. Say, hey, this is what we were doing, this is the proposed, just to get a kind of an idea.
Yeah. By the way, some of you have noted there's a for sale sign next to the property. There was a proposed development that I know some of you were following right next to it, with some single lots divvied up. And evidently that deal has fallen through because that property is now back on the market.
I just want to add that the link, Dan put the link for the project in our chat, and I'm scrolling through it, and it has maps and everything on it. It
does. Just go to the tab that says Peace Village on it under projects.
Dan, can you quickly answer a question for me about permanence of affordability? So I understand it's tenant owned, and how do we keep from having the ceiling rise all the time so it becomes unaffordable over time?
I love that question because this is what really excites me, because what we do is we write into the project, first of all, the fact that the property is owned by the community land trust. It is held in perpetuity for affordable housing. So it can't be sold out just folks wanting to make money. And this happened to some housing co-ops in New York that were formed in the 50s. Prices skyrocketed. Co-op members decided to cash out, and now it's market rate housing. So because the community land trust controls the property, they don't have that ability. Secondly, in the bylaws of the co-op, all the provisions for resale are defined. So again, they can't sell it on the open market. They can only sell it back to the co-op for a predetermined appreciation. So there is some guarantee that their value does increase over time. It just won't increase at market rate. So that's the way that you keep it affordable.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions for Dan? Okay, so Dawn, how do we want to move ahead? Do we want to have a board discussion about this in terms of writing a SACO derived letter as opposed to just individual letters? And we can take that up via email, or how would you like to move forward?
That seems the most practical. Literally,
Okay.
just have take some of the language that Dan provides us and turn it, one or two of us turn it into a draft letter that we circle around and edit the bejesus out of it. Sorry, Dan. And then, and then, decide what, get it done and get it moved forward.
Okay.
I think
We need to
email
make a motion.
email's the
Is that-
smartest thing. Oh, that's right. We should
Does that
probably,
mean-
go ahead.
You go.
You guys were on it. I was just wondering if he's going to need it by the 23rd, if we needed to approve that now tentatively, that whatever we email back and forth would be signed, sealed, and delivered.
Okay, well, let's see. I'll make a motion that we, as the board of the Santa Clara Community Organization, come up with a letter in support of Peace Village between now and March 23rd and deliver it to Dan Bryant in a way so it's there timely enough for him to use for his application. Is there a second?
Patrick.
Patrick seconds.
Okay, all in
Just a minute, Kate.
Yeah.
Point of order. The chair cannot make a motion.
Oh, sure not.
Can I make the same motion?
Yeah, so move that SAC will come up with a letter in support of Peace Village.
Yep.
I second Patrick's motion.
So Patrick, okay,
Patrick moved and Tim seconded.
okay.
Board show visible, thumbs up, sidewards or down.
Where's my thing? Where's my thing?
Let's see. And Gary Haliski, in the chat feature is the snail mail address to send individual support letters to Dan Bryant. And Dan, there was a request for you in the chat to put an email address for people who do not want to use snail mail but want to write a letter in support. Could you
Thought
do
I
that?
did, but I'll do it again.
I think it's scrolled up too far. It's hard
Yeah.
to find it.
There we go. Okay. Done
Thanks,
and
Dan.
done.
Thank you very much. I
Absolutely.
am so excited. I just have to say, this is a wonderful neighborhood association. Great job you guys are doing.
Thank you, Dan. Thank for the great work you're doing. Making
Yeah.
the world a better place.
Wow, your hands up.